Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Now that my two obligatory informative videos are done for the day, it's time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. And a video was made by OmarIsuf, and he had Dr. Eric Helms in there with him. And quite a few people wanted me to comment on it, so I went ahead and watched the entire video this morning. So let me go ahead and put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this, because they made a video discussing how the whole fat-free mass index thing is false. And you know, guys, here's where I'm going to go with this. I'm going to explain why what you guys made in this video actually probably is unethical, that you are facilitating con men, maybe with good intentions, maybe without. I don't know for sure, but I know that you guys for a fact both have friends who are fake natties who sell products based on their natty status. Personal friends of yours, business associates of yours. So that's an important point. You guys have got personal reasons for being biased right there. Personal friendships. So we've got that to consider. And then what you guys pulled is the same thing that Greg Nuckols pulled. I love Greg Nuckols. I think he is an awesome, brilliant guy. But you guys pulled the same crap that he did. You guys pulled the exact same straw man. And I'm one of the people who popularized this idea. I think I'm definitely qualified to discuss the fake natty witch hunt, because people were saying years ago that I was responsible for it. You guys all remember that? Jason Blaha is responsible for the fake natty witch hunt. Well, if I'm going to be responsible for it, I think I should have a say in the motivation behind it, and even what the witch hunt was even saying. Because you guys pulled the stuff of saying the fat-free mass index is a 25 limit. That's not what people are saying. That is a complete straw man. Complete straw man. And you guys broke down examples of people who don't fit the criteria of what we were discussing at all. That is not the criteria. No one ever said a person at 15 or 18% body fat can't have a higher than a 25 fat-free mass index if they lift hard and eat a lot. No one ever said that. So let's get that out of the way first. The point was that it was about people who are near contest condition, which is a totally different environment, because you, Dr. Helms, who did your PhD on pre-contest bodybuilders, that was what your doctoral work was in, and muscle retention and muscle loss and everything that happens when you're dieting down and how to try to mitigate that to some extent. You have a PhD in this. You know damn well there's a difference between being 6% body fat and 15% body fat. You know this. So to create this straw man against the argument is actually intellectual dishonesty. You guys know that. You guys know that's not what people are saying. But what I want to get to is the bigger point, what really bothered me, because that's easy to break down. If you guys just flat out argued against a straw man that you and Greg Nuckols and a few other people created yourselves, that is not what this witch hunt ever said at the start. It is not what it was about. You're completely twisting an argument to an argument you can counter instead of the actual argument that was proposed. That's called a straw man, guys. That's a logical fallacy, and it's intellectually dishonest. You guys know that. You especially, Dr. Helms, you have a PhD. You know what intellectual dishonesty and straw man arguments are. So, the problem I have before we jump into some of that is what you guys said near the end of saying, well, why does it matter? It only matters if people are selling the products, if they're selling you something. That's the point. That it was from day one, that is the entirety of the witch hunt. Because you guys try to downplay it and say, well, yeah, there's some fake natties out there, but why does it matter unless they're selling stuff? Because you guys have 50 fucking friends who sell stuff as fake natties personally. That's why. Because you guys buddy up and hang out with people who make their living selling products based upon their natural status, supplements, training programs, meal plans. They sell products based upon their natural status when you guys know that they are fake natties. That's why. Are we going to pretend this isn't happening every single day? Are we going to pretend this isn't happening every day on YouTube? We're going to pretend this isn't happening every day on Instagram, on Facebook? Are you guys serious? It's an enormous problem. That is the problem. Now, if a guy just puts up an Instagram picture and says, hey, I work out, check me out, well, that's fine. No one's talking about that. I've always said no one cares. So we're in agreement there. The problem is that you guys hang out and associate with people, and you're buddy with tons of people who are doing exactly what we agree the problem is. So let's not downplay that problem and pretend it isn't real. You guys are basically collaborators at that point. You're collaborators with people committing fraud by doing that, by downplaying that, and you know it. You guys personally have friends who do it. Not even going to name names. And that is the problem. The other problem is that, again, expectations. Say, why put limits on yourself? No one's talking about putting limits on yourself. But what I am telling people, most people have average genetics, hence the word average. You guys, we all understand what the word average means. Average means, you're kind of in the middle of the road somewhere. Either you're with the majority or you're statistical average. Most people have average genetics for muscle building, muscle insertions, body composition, all that stuff, right? Most people are in the average range. Dr. Eric Helms is in the average range. The problem is that we have an industry full of so many fake natties that people have been told they can all look like they're on trend and have 15 pounds more muscle mass than Dr. Helms has ever had, just by working out and eating right and taking the right supplements. Now, I'm going to say, Eric, that should offend you personally. You're a guy who is not a lifetime natty. You did do a super drill cycle. It's all admitted. It's documented. You've admitted it. We know it was there. You've done one cycle admittedly. Well, that can cause some changes. We all agree. I tend to say once you cash in your natty card, you're not natty anymore, right? The moment I took my first shot, I was not natty again for the rest of my life, and I accept that. I might be in the normal testosterone range these days in my middle age, in my 40s, but I am not a lifetime natural, and I don't even really consider TRT to be natural. I wouldn't actually claim natural on TRT either. I wouldn't do that. I don't think it's appropriate. We can argue about the amount of advantage or not that it gives all day long, but it's not natty. And it doesn't matter that I'm on TRT now because I used gear in my 20s. Therefore, I am not a natural at age 41, even if I stopped completely then and never took another shot. That's how it works, guys. You cash in your natty card. You're not natty. It is what it is. Accept it. So you're sitting there. You have 15 years of training. You've been a natural pro for over a decade. Competed at pretty high levels in drug-tested powerlifting, yet you have never reached a fat-free mass index of over 24 while contest lean. I believe your fat-free mass index has been down in the 22s while being peeled. And you have average genetics, right? Your average genetics, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with having average genetics. People need to accept that it's not a bad thing. It doesn't make you a bad person. It's not an attack on a person's character. It is what it is. It is what it is. But you would need to gain another 10 pounds of muscle at contest time to even be close to being suspect on that chart as someone who has done a cycle. With 15 years of hard training experience, and no one's going to argue that Dr. Helms doesn't know what he's doing. Is anyone going to say, oh, he doesn't know how to train or eat? He did his doctoral work on the nutrition of contest bodybuilders. Pre-contest bodybuilders. He has a PhD in bodybuilding, basically, as far as the nutrition end goes. I'm going to go out on a limb and say he probably knows how to eat. I think that's a fair statement. 15 years of training experience, experienced coach people for bodybuilding, powerlifting, everything else. Successfully, people have won many events in both categories under his direct tutelage. I'm going to say he knows how to train also. So we have a guy who clearly knows how to train, clearly knows how to eat, and he's way above average in both areas. The average lifter is not on Eric's level in nutrition or training programming. Either one. They're not. He's way above average. He's above average in that area. Has done a cycle. 15 years of experience. But you put him in clothes and he doesn't look like he lifts. Put him in a shirt and he doesn't look like he lifts. And he sits at, in the 22s or 23s fat-free mass index at contest time. Okay? Yet when I've seen people say him, when I've talked about this before, they look at him, and I've actually had people say who've been so delusioned by the industry that if that's the best they could achieve natural, they just want to give up. So you guys don't see the problem here. We also have the other problem saying don't set limits on yourselves. Yeah, well, that goes the other way too. People start setting limits in the idea of the expectation that they're all going to have the size and physique of a guy who blasts 100 milligrams of tren every day. That's their expectation because of the fake natties. This works both directions. You can say, well, you shouldn't put limits on yourself. Well, the genetically gifted who are going to do better than Eric are going to do that anyways, just by training anyways. They're going to surpass those limits and it won't matter. That 1% of people with those really amazing genetics are going to do exceptional no matter what. A lot of them can train like jackasses and still get great gains. They get as good a gains as guys on drugs. Almost, close to, right? So who are we going to say we're not going to put limits on? The genetic outliers? So we're going to worry about 1, 2, 3% of the population, and we're just going to screw everyone else over with delusion by saying, no, you can totally, guys, you can totally be 210 at 10% body fat at 5'10". Yeah, you just got to work really hard. Is that what we're going to say? Because that's what you're basically saying, that just tell the average guy they can totally achieve that. And then when they don't, then they become disillusioned. Then they wonder if they're not training right. When they don't reach those goals and they get the results Dr. Helms has after a decade or 5 years, they're still not bigger than Eric after 5 years of training. Then they start going, what am I doing wrong? Do I need to go on juice? I had this idea in my head that I was going to reach this other goal, and I'm not even close. I'm 25 pounds of muscle away from my goal, and I've been at this for 5 years. I bought Dr. Helms's concurrent upper-lower periodization split, and I've been running it for 3 years, and I still don't look like the guy who I was supposed to look like, who says he's natty. So you see the problem there? So now their options are to give up, maybe go pay the fake natty to write them a program because your program clearly didn't work. It gave them natural results. Or they're going to go in gear. So this works both ways. You're not helping people by saying this. You're hurting them. The only people who are going to benefit from saying don't put those limits on yourself are going to be the genetically gifted. So we're going to screw everybody else to help 1, 2, 3% of the population. Now that's real smart. That's real ethical, guys. That's real responsible. Now let's get to the straw man. What is it that we keep saying? That getting under 10% body fat with a fat-free mass index of 25 or higher is probably almost impossible for a natural. In fact, let's go back and make the real argument. Getting down to under 10% body fat with a fat-free mass index over 24 is probably nearly impossible for the genetically average guy. It's clearly impossible for Dr. Helms, who has all the knowledge in the world. He can't do it because he has average genetics. So we're going to sit around here and worry that there might be a couple of genetic outliers out there who are sitting at a 25.5 fat-free mass index at 7% body fat. Okay, so you find 3 guys in the entire world, so then all of a sudden our standards for the average person needs to change and they should just buy programs and products based upon a guy's natural status. That's the point we're making. And what's the other thing? We're talking about under 10% body fat. Keep showing guys 15% body fat, 15% body fat. Well, hell, if we're going to do that, we're going to go body fats. My DEXA scan says I have a fat-free mass index of 27. Yeah, baby. But I'm also above 10% body fat, well above 10% body fat, and I'm previously enhanced. And I have a suspicion that my next DEXA scan I will have gained muscle, so my fat-free mass index is going to go up even though my body fat's gone down. So, let's be realistic here. We know fat people have higher fat-free mass indexes. Sumo wrestlers have been reported off DEXA scans that have fat-free mass indexes of 28, 29% without any drugs. Because eating enough food to get fat will create a hormone environment that will push you past your natural limit also. Because overeating produces IGF-1 in the muscle tissue. Injecting anabolics produces IGF-1 in the muscle tissue. That's the primary pathway by which they stimulate muscle growth. Eating excessive amounts of food produces the same result. You just gain a lot of fat with it. But when you diet down to 9% body fat, that 27 or 28 fat-free mass index starts turning into 24 real fast, doesn't it? So you guys went through all this trouble to give examples, estimated examples of straw men of guys at 15% body fat, 14% body fat, who might have hit 26, they might be 27. But their fatter. They're not ripped. They're not contest lean. They didn't diet down. You usually lose muscle and lean mass when you diet down under 10% body fat. That's Dr. Helms, you know this. Your studies confirmed this. Your doctoral work confirmed this to be true. So what are you saying? Your doctoral work was all false? Make up your mind. Because your straw man, if you're going to argue that and claim that these guys diet down to what we're talking about, that it's going to produce the same fat-free mass index, then your PhD isn't worth anything because you produced a bunch of garbage. That's what you're saying. So pick one. Make up your mind. Can you keep all your muscle mass that you had at 15% body fat? Will your lean mass stay the same when you diet down to 7% without any drugs to help preserve it? Is that how it works? Because that's what you're saying with this straw man you guys are creating, because no one's talking about 15% body fat. It's been specifically said from day one in this whole witch hunt, it's for guys who are contest cut. I want you to, if all your doctoral work, produce me how many guys you got who are completely clean, who dieted down from 15% body fat to 7 and kept all their fat-free mass. How many of your guys did that? I'm going to guess 0. I'm going to guess 0. And if they didn't, you probably should have done a drug test on that guy. Because he's probably going to piss dirty no matter what he wrote on the form. Yeah? All right, guys. This is complete nonsense. This argument was based upon garbage. Also, one little caveat before I go. It is well documented from interviews that in 1954 and 1955, Dianabol was hitting the entire bodybuilding scene. Anybody after 1954 is suspect of being on D-Bol. Also, it is confirmed, and I have evidence of this. I've kept files of it. We have evidence going back to publications on microfiche of all the way back to the 1940s. Muscle-building hormones were being sold, specifically methyl testosterone, was being sold in the 1940s in Popular Science magazine. And it was a product to help you build muscle mass and improve virility. So if you're telling me Popular Science magazine knew this and was selling this all the way in the 1940s that people who were lifting didn't have access, it's documented in all the microfiche of the articles of the old Popular Science magazines. It was being sold a decade before that. But the 1950s, come on, they're on D-Bol, and most of those guys are above 10% body fat on top of it. So we can throw some of those right out. But back to the other point, no one's talking about people at 14, 15% body fat. You guys are, because you're the ones creating the counter argument. But that's called a straw man. And you damn well know it. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative. And I will talk to you guys next time.